time for House to Home with your host, Clyde Haase, where you will hear from local people who turn their houses into homes all across the inland Northwest, and you'll learn how to do the same. House to Home is brought to you in part by River Ridge Hardware and Avista. Now, here's Clyde.
And welcome to another edition of House to Home. I'm your host, Clyde Haase. You know, I'm looking into the future. And joining me today is Tom Lienhard. He's with Avista, Energy Efficient Engineer. And Tom has got some great news he's going to share with us today on regarding the future of energy. And Tom, you and I sat down for almost a half an hour beforehand here reviewing it, and I've looked it over, and I'm just sitting here saying, really, where is the future going with energy?
Well, we're going to probably be talking more in the future about when you use energy than how much you use, because of all the renewables and everything that are coming into our system and the requests that we've had to make our energy cleaner. And so one of the things I'd like to do today is talk about the Eco District, which is an area over on Sprague, which is across from the Eastern Washington University and WSU campuses, where we're building two buildings to be able to showcase how we maybe move into the future with energy.
Now, when I was driving down Sprague Avenue and I looked to the north where the new bridge is in, that's where I had seen those new buildings. Is that the right buildings?
That is. There's two. The larger one is called a Catalyst building, and there'll be Eastern Washington University using that building, and it's going to be one of the most sustainable buildings in the world. The other building, a little bit smaller building, is called the Scott Morris Center of Innovation. And that Scott Morris Center is what is actually giving a lot of the energy to the Catalyst building. So we're putting a lot of measures and new technology in there to make sure that the whole eco district, as it builds out, will use energy in a way that not only uses a low amount of energy, but also doesn't affect the grid in the way that today's buildings do.
Well, you know, Tom, when we started, I said, what is the future of energy? And Avista's not going into the construction business, right?
That's correct.
Okay. You're going to deal with energy.
Correct. Our goal with the Eco District project is to find out how we send the right price signals and give the right measures to people to use energy in the way that not only lowers our carbon, but keeps our energy costs as low as they could possibly be as time goes on.
Okay. And from in this building, you're going to have things taking place and understanding how you can move it around during different peaks of the day.
Correct.
And different days of the week.
Right. Maybe something to explain to you would be that, or the other people that are watching this, because you know this, is that a building that is a net zero building that has enough energy on it to make up for the energy it uses isn't always the most grid friendly building that we have. In fact, it's probably got solar on it, and in the winter at 6 o'clock in the morning, it wants as much energy as any other building wants. And that's when we are peaking, and that's when we're having to run our peaking plants with natural gas to try to make enough energy to coast us through, because we only have about half our energy hydro, and then we have a bunch of renewables. But for us to get to our goals in the future, it means that we're going to have to try to help people run in different ways.
Well, what Tom is saying that is Avista is looking at the future as you and I are looking at apps on our phone or different ways that we can manage our equipment within our home. And you're doing that also from a different scale, but to say, we're going to try to work with you to understand and then be available for the power. And you said wintertime. Folks, summertime is likewise a big power usage also, right?
You bet.
So that it works both ways.
It does. The newest devices we have coming on makes it a little easier for us in the summer, because there's a lot of solar coming on, and sometimes wind is pretty good in the summer as well. But it's really going to be, what are our resources? How can we control them? In this Scott Morris Center, we are going to have a bunch of people occupying it. Besides, our efficiency team will be in there, and you'll be able to walk in off the street and come talk about how can I do something better in my house? We'll be there for you if you want to talk about that. We'll also be there to talk to architects and engineers and show them what the newest ways to use energy wisely in the buildings are so that we can help people do that.
Well, Tom's office is going to be moved from the present one on Mission. You've been there for a long time. And now to this new facility because he's an energy efficient engineer, understanding how energy can be renewable. But you've also made a commitment with Avista that you're going to have a carbon-free footprint?
That's right. Our commitment is carbon neutral by 2027 and carbon free by 2045 in our electric system. And that's hard enough, except all of the things that get us there aren't created yet, which is why the Scott Morris Center for Innovation is so important, because we'll be able to work with the national labs, meter companies, all kinds of people who work together to possibly find new controls and new ways to deliver energy and make it so that we can extend the energy that we have available to us.
Well, you know, one of the things that I've looked at, folks, is, and where I live, I don't have natural gas, but I wish I did. I have electricity only that comes through the power line, but we've also got, 3 or 4 different sources, and that may not be the extent of all of them yet, because the future may develop something more. Am I correct?
That's correct. We're seeing that if we try to use renewables for as much as we can, it takes a lot more renewables than a normal baseload technology. So we might need 3 times the wind that we would need a combined cycle turbine to do, because we have to make a little bit more when the wind is blowing and save it up. So we'll be looking at all kinds of technologies that don't necessarily either exist or the idea exists, but they haven't been built yet, like pumped hydro, battery technology. In this eco district, we'll be running low voltage, DC electricity to one of the buildings so that all the lighting and all the controls are run by DC that can be created with the solar. Then we're going to have batteries that store that up. We'll have thermal storage so that we can get thousands of gallons of water, either hot or cold, and then be able to use that hot water when we would normally be peaking in the morning asking for heat. So those are the ways that we're going to try to make these buildings be easy on the grid.
Well, you know, one of the things, folks, that I've been listening to Tom for the last hour or two about this subject, and the more, I mean, it's so new for us, the users who just walk in a room and turn on the light switch, that we haven't thought about this. But that's where the future is coming down to, is what are some of these other non-carbon footprint areas, and that's why we have to be so aware of what's happening around us. Now, explaining this more to the listener here today, how can we better understand that through this structure that you've got, you're going to have rooms, you're going to have setups, you're going to have systems in place in there that are measuring the energy used and how it can be reversed, and batteries?
Yeah, all
of this?
We'll have the whole first floor of the Scott Morris Center is, with the exception of one little part, is dedicated to thermal storage and battery storage and ways to use that within that eco district. And this has been his goal for a long time, that we are able to chart our own future for what our energy use is going to be like. The fear that we have is that if we're not part of the solution, then it may cost our customers more in the end than if we're a part of building this solution.
Well, understanding where the future is going to be going and understanding where it has been, and all we can ever think of is the hydro dams and, again, natural gas. But we were talking about during before we came in here, that you need to be explaining and understanding how battery storage can be used. So during those areas when we don't have any sunshine early in the morning, how can that be stored up from the day before? Are you going to have that?
Right now, we don't have long periods of battery storage. Most of what we're thinking of buying is in the area of 4 hours. But we're missing sometimes a week at a time without renewable energy. So we need to be able to store that renewable up for a long time to be able to use it. So that's why we'll look at things like pumped hydro. There may be other technologies that come along that we can find and use to help us there. But the point is, we're building a location to look for all of the opportunities that we could incorporate.
So if you're an interested young person for the industry and in school, this is going to be a great educational center that'll be available to some degree for the people coming off the street. They could actually inquire and begin to learn.
Yeah, we hope to be a storefront where they can walk in and
Really?
learn what we're doing and see how it's going. I mean, obviously, we're not in there yet. It's going to be middle of next year before we're there. But when we are, we certainly hope that we'll be able to answer questions for people when they have those questions.
Yeah. Well, you know, one of the things, and we're going to be taking a break here pretty soon, Tom, but we're going to be coming open and we're going to share with you to show you what this structure is going to be looking like, because we've been talking about it. And within this structure, it's going to be used for education, storage of energy. Is that correct?
That's correct. And research.
And research will be available for other people to use the facility.
That's correct.
Okay, and through this, we're going to understand how a office is going to be changing by the way it's heated and cooled. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so these are the things that we need to understand and allow Avista to look to the future to see where the grid's going to be, because we've seen this last few years of how the windmills have been taken on, and again, but how to store that is what I'm asking the question. And through this facility, you'll be researching that?
That's
how
correct.
To reserve the energy?
And how to use energy better so that we might not be drawn on it when we have a big peak.
Well, and the big peak can happen early in the morning or late at night. But again, it's a case of understanding what and how to use it at the right time, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, Tom, you know, as the future comes along and as we move along into another day tomorrow, we need to be looking at this. And folks, you need to understand that Avista is just not alone selling you the power to watch us today or to hear us today, but they're looking at the future and seeing what is going to be taking place and understanding the utilities of the future. And through that, this doesn't happen by reading a book or open it up. You have to do research into it, right, Tom?
That's correct. And we may have to create some of the solutions we need.
Well, you know, and that's almost each and every given day. We need to find ourselves how we can actually be creating this and finding out the right direction, what is going to be taking place. Folks, we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to come back. We're going to show some pictures of the building, we hope, and so that people will better understand what we're all talking about. Come back and join us here. We'll take a break right now.
Hi, this is Larry at River Ridge Hardware. Just wanted the opportunity to show you a little bit about our Christmas. We have Christmas tree stands. We have ornaments that you won't find anywhere else. We have the small Christmas lights. We have the tube lights that you can run up and down. We also have a massive amount of snow shovels. Come on out and visit River Ridge Hardware.
Welcome to another edition of House to Home. I'm Clyde Haase, Tom Lienhard with Avista Energy Efficient Engineers. And folks, what we've been talking about is imagine the future of energy and what is taking place. The Scott Morris building here in Spokane being built to the north side of Sprague Avenue, almost to downtown by the bridge, is just the beginning of the footprint. Tom is here sharing today what is really taking place out there, and we'll be able to show you some pictures of it. But again, it's going to be used for your research. Am I correct?
That's correct.
And better understanding of what is taking place there.
Sure. I think what we're trying to do is be able to use the whole eco-district, a 5-block area, and see if we can share energy within that 5-block area in a different way than we have before. Now, that's what it's looking like in the future. Today, that's a couple blocks with 2 buildings.
Yes.
The Scott Morris Center and the Catalyst Building. The Catalyst Building is special because McKinstry has put a bunch of new types of devices inside that building, a lot of low voltage DC systems that can run inside the building. And the building itself, the Catalyst Building itself, is being created using Katera building products. So it's all wood fabrication.
Really?
There's no steel or concrete in the process of
All
building.
renewable products.
Everything that's in there is, and it's not just the fact that wood is available and you can
No.
put it together in beams and things like that. It's also the fact that it turns out to be very strong and capable of handling almost anything that can happen to a building. Far more flexible than other building materials. It has gone up really quickly, and if you've watched it being built, you've seen the wood going into that particular building. So that's another thing that's actually really good about it.
Well, with that in mind, Tom, I was just looking on the screen here. We are beginning to see the two structures that are beginning to take place here in Spokane.
Right. This picture that you see right now is the Catalyst building, and it's kind of bordered by the train tracks there, but
Right.
it's a all wood structure building, and it's going to be really pretty high tech.
Now, you said they were, what, 3 and 4 stories high, tall buildings?
This one is a 5-story building.
5-story.
Yeah, about 180,000 square feet. And the hub, which is the Scott Morris Center of Innovation, which is on the next page, is a smaller building, but it will house the distributed energy and resources for the South Landing Eco District, and it will also have our space that the efficiency team will be there to help people, as well as 2 floors of research and development that will include Avista researchers, Itron, possibly other people who are national labs have made an interest to be in there too.
Well, you know, Avista has been a leader in many different areas, and you mentioned Itron is a offshoot of Avista. It took place, and you mentioned a couple other ones.
Yeah, you know, Avista, Washington Water Power.
Yes.
One of our electric people helped create the thermostat in the first electric ranges so that you could make ovens work and hold the temperature at the same time. This was back when everybody had wood ranges.
Right.
You know, obviously you know about Itron, but we also did fuel cells. We've had the first long-distance transmission lines in the United States were with Washington Water Power. And we've always been a force in building hydropower in the area. But Scott Morris has always wanted that kind of innovation to continue. And to continue, that means we changed our focus on how not only just do we have plenty of energy to hand out to people when they want it, can we teach people when to use it? Can we make our rate structure such that they'll want to use it at the right times and it'll be fair to everyone?
Right. Well, you know, this is one of the things that, again, I notice when I pay my heating bill. Again, I identify how much energy I've used. All of us need to identify and be better understanding, because Tom and I have shared some ideas along the way of energy saving around your home, and we wanted to dedicate to this particular program here today of how Avista is really taking a major lead among energy owners in America. I mean, you folks are being looked at as saying, hey, these people are doing something about the future of energy.
Yeah,
and that's what I wanted to bring about.
And there are a lot of, I want to bring up the fact that there are a lot of really good architects and engineers locally, and they would love to be doing this same kind of stuff. And part of the reason why they can't is maybe our rate structure doesn't say build in some thermal storage or do this, and we haven't tied in with all the things that we need to be able to allow somebody to put a little bit of effort into other things that are going to help them use energy when it's the right time. And so we hope that this is a way for us to open up to all of those people and let them come in and give us their ideas of how to do that, because we don't believe that we're the end all in the ideas, but we do believe in, and that Scott Morris believed in, building this center of innovation that would allow everyone to come together and try to make sure that we're using energy in the right manner.
Well, I think that some of our people here today that are listening to us, Tom, they are saying, you mean there's a place I can go share my idea with? Well, I'm going to reach out and say, hey, Tom, I have an idea. Can I sit down and talk to you about it? And that's what this building is all going to be, as a a listening board for people that may have some thoughts, right?
That's right. I've had an idea for some time. I believe that we have a bunch of customers that are residential customers who have both gas furnaces and they have heat pumps. And so I've always had the idea that if we could build a control system to talk to their thermostat, they could say, you know what, I want to do the lowest carbon that I possibly could. So we might send a message to their thermostat saying, we got all the wind blowing and solar shining that we need. Could you please use your heat pump right now to heat with? Or we may send them a message saying, we're completely out of electricity, so use your furnace at a higher efficiency than it's going to be for us to make electricity with natural gas, and then you'll be making the lowest carbon future you could make. We don't know what that's going to cost. We don't know anything like that, but we do know that all of our customers are asking us for choices. Would you give me a choice to be low carbon if I want to? Would you please give me a choice to do this if I want to? And because we've been asked, the Scott Morris Center is what we're going to use as a way to say, let's find these things.
Well, you know, I want to say this, Tom. A year ago, I had a new furnace put in my home. I'm on total electricity. I have no gas available unless I use propane. But I went the route of getting the right contractor and I said, what is the most energy efficient long-term for, let's say, next 10 years that appears to be today on the market? And tell me about the thermostat, because my wife's approach is, well, just turn it down when we go to bed. Well, that doesn't always work so well. And so I was able to say, let's talk to someone who knows what they're talking about, energy efficient. And the heating person was able to identify, who I identified. He knew what he was talking about. He said, as your system is used by you, your system will begin to function knowing what the past week was done, the last month was done, how the temperature related to it. And we have some of these tools available now, right?
That's correct.
Am I talking correct?
Right. Because even a smart thermostat
right.
now looks down the road and says, in 2 days, the temperature is going to drop 20 degrees. Should I pre-prepare for that? Should I start heating the home a little bit as I see the temperature dropping too fast outside?
Right.
So not only for comfort, but also for energy savings, we can see things that are coming because now we get to use the internet to find out things we need to use. I think we're just trying to take it one step further and say, can we share this resource that we have in such a way that everybody is benefited from it, and we reduce carbon?
Well, and I want to say this, that I have seen over the past 12 months, and I'm into my 14th month now since we started that one, that my bills have actually decreased. The energy used has actually decreased, and I haven't touched it. And see, folks, we need to sometimes, and I mean, come on, I'm the old one. I'm saying, and that computer is going to tell me what to do? Things are moving that direction to understand how our renewable resources, which is wind, water, all have an effect on our lives as a renewable source. We need to understand how they can be utilized better, right?
Yep, I agree with you.
And so we need to understand that something like this for the image of the future of energy is all about us to allow it to happen and to understand what is to happen. And of course, I wish I was smart enough to figure it out, Tom. As a energy efficient engineer, your plate has got to be really full, right?
Yeah, but it's an exciting time.
It's got to be.
We live in a place that has some of the lowest cost energy in the nation, in the world, and yet we are still going to be able to be the ones that make it not go up as much as it could if we didn't use this energy right, and perhaps even cause it in the future to change to be far less carbon and far less cost than it would be if we just took it without questioning.
We just accept. Tom, let me ask this question. Can people begin to feed you information at this time yet? And if they can't, do we need to go to your website? Can they make contact with you, or how, and just share these more of these great ideas you have?
Well, I think the best thing for us to do is keep talking on this in this environment. But I'm available at Avista if somebody has ideas and they want to talk about it. And also if somebody's concerned about what's being done and is wondering why they can't be a part of it or whatever, I would love to talk to them. My name is on this show, so you'll be able to get it and email me and find out anything you want.
Well, Tom Lienhard has been a good friend of mine, and Tom Lienhard is a great friend of yours out there because he's looking out for the future. And we need to understand the future is now, and that's one of the big issues that we're talking about today with Avista and Tom Lienhard, is the future for energy. We need to understand it. Any closing words, Tom?
No, I would really recommend that people, in about 6 months, you be looking for coming in and visiting us.
Okay, sounds great. Tom, thank you. We appreciate it. Sharing the future of energy. This is just another way that we on House to Home, we share now, today, and in the future as you take your house to your home. Next time, we'll see you then. Thank you.
Thanks for watching House to Home, which is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksMedia.com, which is solely responsible for their content. House to Home is sponsored by River Ridge Hardware and Avista. Ask Clyde a question, recommend a guest, or hear this program again on our Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or SpokaneTalksMedia.com.